Hey there, my name is Shane Craddock, and this is the Inner Edge podcast, where I share a different take on how to lead and live a sustainable, high-performance life. Over the course of different episodes, I'm going to challenge the belief that tension, stress, and struggle are essential to success and creativity. My experience is that there's an easier way, there's a better way, and indeed there's an essential way that we need to explore for the times that we live in. So let's go ahead, let's jump in and explore. Hi there, Shane here. Welcome to the Inner Edge, wherever you are in the world. I hope you're well. Let me begin this particular episode with a simple observation. We live in a world that I believe constantly demands certainty. It's always looking for forecasts, it's looking for predictions, it's looking for guarantees in all sorts of arenas, but particularly in business, and also maybe particularly in our minds for our lives. But there's a truth, I think, that most people just don't want to admit, and it's that life isn't certain. Might be the easiest pill to swallow, but life isn't certain. It is stochastic. And I'm going to explain that word if you've never heard of it, because I think it's a word you're going to hear more of in the time that we're living in at the moment. Well, and the time to come. And I think life has always been uncertain to some degree. But now, I think more than ever, life is definitely unpredictable, it's probabilistic, and it's shaped by randomness, which isn't the easiest thing to swallow as a human being. And if COVID taught us anything, is that, we're actually not really in control. But the difference between leaders and performers who thrive in times like these and those who struggle isn't intelligence. I don't think it's even experience. My experience is that it's mindset. And specifically, what we're going to call a stochastic mindset. Now, so what is a stochastic mindset? Well, the word stochastic comes from the Greek word stochastikos, which means skillful in aiming or to guess. In maths or statistics, it's used to describe systems or processes that involve randomness, chance, probability. You'll often hear it used in contexts like stochastic modeling in finance or weather forecast in particular, or now even AI, where outcomes can't be predicted with certainty, but they can be described in terms of likelihoods. So when I'm talking about a stochastic mindset, I'm not just throwing around a fancy word. What I mean is cultivating in us a way of thinking that embraces randomness, works with probabilities, and importantly, lets go of the illusion of certainty. And in today's world, as difficult as that may be, it's a critical advantage and will become even more of an advantage to come, I believe. So contrast, say, stochastic mindset with a deterministic mindset. The deterministic one is where the belief that if I do X, then Y will happen. And that has worked to some degree, and maybe in certain situations it does. But increasingly, I think what you're going to see is that's the kind of thinking that people get stuck in. Because here's the problem. In today's world, particularly with AI reshaping industries literally overnight, and things like geopolitics shifting around us and disruption coming from pretty much every direction, deterministic thinking, where you think X will create Y, is fast becoming a liability because it creates rigidity in your thinking, which means rigidity in your ability to respond. It creates stress, and actually it can create paralysis when things don't go according to the plan. But on the other hand, having a stochastic mindset embraces that uncertainty. It doesn't demand any guarantee. It plays very much in probabilities of what's most likely to happen, or what are the range of possibilities. It kind of asks questions like, what are those ranges? What's most likely? How can I stay flexible if it changes? And the inner edge to that is that it's not just about probability. It's about your relationship with uncertainty itself. Now, most of the people that I work with, as I've often said on this particular podcast, are high achievers or performers. They're people keen to get on, to make an impact, to achieve their impossible goals often. And one of the things they all have in common is that they crave control. Now, they mightn't recognize it, but after a little bit of discussion, they'll certainly identify it. And they want that control because they want certainty, because they believe certainty equals safety. But often they can overthink, they can delay because they're looking for that certainty. I've done it myself. And then we can double down on bad decisions just because we can't handle randomness. I remember working with a client who wanted to expand into a new market. And they told me that, look, I'm 100% certain this is going to work. And I think that's the mistake. That's the trap, because in business and in life, there is no such thing as 100% certainty. It just doesn't exist. I've seen it too many times. But I also remember another client approaching that same problem in terms of moving into a new market. They took a more of a stochastic approach. So the difference was they asked questions like, okay, hang on, what are the probabilities here? What are the optional plays? What's the upside if it works? But importantly, what's the downside if it doesn't work? And critically, can I live with that downside? So that particular person launched smaller, but they learned fast through iteration, adaptation. And within 12 months, their kind of highly uncertain move had actually become his most profitable business line. And the difference to me, because the first person, it didn't work because they went all in, wasted a lot of money, wasted a lot of time, and it just didn't work. And the difference between those two was the first person clung to certainty, this is going to 100% going to work. But the other person embraced a stochastic mindset and looked at the probabilities. And so they actually were more adaptable and actually had a better plan. I think use of a metaphor is to think of it like sailing. You can't control the wind, obviously. It's unpredictable, it's variable, it's often not doing what you want, going the way that you want. But what you can do, and I'm not a sailor, is that you can use your sails to adapt. You can adjust your course. And you just basically adapt to the weather. But the sailor who insists that the weather and the wind has to be a certain way generally is going to have a problem. But the one who adapts and uses the weather thrives. And that's, to me, is maybe one of the simplest metaphors to illustrate a stochastic mindset. Now, you could say as well, listening to me, even it's occurring to me that, is that an improviser's mindset? And I think yes and no. There's a slight difference. Like the similarity is where both a stochastic mindset and somebody who has an improviser's mindset, they're very flexible in the moment. They'll embrace uncertainty. They'll let go of control, and they'll adapt to whatever's happening in the moment. The difference is that the improviser's approach, their mindset, is very much grounded in real-time responsiveness. So you can think of somebody like a jazz musician or a comedian in particular, or maybe even a leader in a life situation. The focus is on being presence, and as a way to kind of make momentum happen. But it's very experiential. A stochastic mindset does recognize that as well, but it's more rooted in probabilistic thinking. So it's not just responding to the moment, it's also recognizing that the outcomes we're looking for in life and business are to a degree shaped by chance. So a stochastic mindset involves thinking in ranges of probability. It's about managing risk. It's about also accepting in randomness and chance and synchronicity as part of the system. So if an improviser's mindset is about playing with whatever happens in the moment, I guess a stochastic mindset is about zooming out, recognizing that randomness and probability shape everything, and that you're preparing yourself to adapt to what emerges. Now, both share the same DNA of flexibility and presence for sure, but the stochastic mindset also adds a strategic layer of thinking in probabilities rather than guarantees. And just a little mini plug, if any of this kind of content resonates or you find it quite interesting, if you want to go deeper, one of my long form audios in my Inner Edge audio club is on this particular area. It's particularly around mining inner resilience in a stochastic world. It's about 45 to 50 minutes. So it's a longer form audio, but I think you'd find quite interesting. It's one of the audios, and that audio alone actually is probably worth the price of the entire series, but the link is in the show notes if you're interested. It's the Inner Advantage audio club that I have. It's 12 audios over 12 months. Anyway, let me bring it back to you. Where maybe in your life Are you demanding certainty before you move, before you make a decision, before you take action? Where might you be stuck? Maybe in deterministic thinking, as I'm defining it, which is like that you're believing life has to unfold a certain way. And maybe you haven't even realized that that's the way you're thinking. Maybe today you might realize, hang on, what way am I thinking about that? Is it more, I need control, I need it to be a certain way, or am I open to be more stochastic, looking at the probabilities? And in that way, what if you shifted the question from what's the answer, what do I need to do, to what are the possibilities here? Like what's most probable, what's least probable, what's the upside, what's the downside, and how can I adapt if things change? What's my plan for that? So a reframe, a suggested reframe is a stochastic mindset doesn't mean you have to stop planning. No, it just means you stop pretending that the plan guarantees success, that it guarantees the outcome, because it won't. And there was a time, I remember probably in the 90s and the early 90s, maybe when some of the plan would guarantee the outcome. I think those days are gone. There's too much disruption now. So if you're open to it, here's a suggested action for the week ahead. Pick one situation where you've been craving certainty, and instead of waiting for a perfect answer, ask yourself, okay, what's the range of outcomes here? What's most probable? And how can I stay flexible if things shift? And generally they will, of course. And even if you give that a little bit of consideration, my bet is that it will reduce stress to some degree. It'll probably unlock a little bit of creativity and ideas, and it'll help you move forwards. So let me leave you with this thought that, I think we all as humans, me included, even unconsciously, we crave certainty because it's comforting. But the reality is, in the world we're in now in particular, adaptability is actually freedom. That's it for this week. Ciao for now.